I'm not in the habit of praising Donald Trump, but I got to tell you, the last week or so in the Middle East, I think the president has in this last week or so played the Middle East pretty darn well. I got to give him some kudos there.
And he did that, and I could play Ben Rhodes too, Obama National Security Advisor. He did a lot of the great moves, and I'm being sarcastic, that Barack Obama did. Remember, Barack Obama gave us the Libya mess. He also was the idea that after the surge, it thought it would be a great idea to pull every one of our troops out of Iraq, and then we got ISIS. Ben Rhodes was behind that, but he says, I got to give Trump credit for going out of the box and not being locked into a doctrine. Tomi Lahren still with us. You know about her show on Outkick. She is fearless, and she's about to go outnumbered. Are your thoughts about these guys weighing in? Do you feel the same way?
I feel the same way, but I also think being associated with the Democrat Party right now, if you are a serious strategist or individual that wants to have a career, being associated with the Democrat Party right now is toxic. It's poison. So maybe giving President Trump some credit is their way of subtly distancing themselves from that. And also, they'd rather talk about Trump's success in the Middle East rather than talking about the Biden tell-all books, because a lot of them are going to be swept up in that. So if you're a strategist, you're a Democrat elite in that circle, you'd rather be giving Trump credit than talking about how you covered up Joe Biden's decline, in my opinion. You
know what's so interesting, Tommy? The disconnect. Do you remember after he collapsed in the debate, what did they do? They scheduled like a whole week of appearances, speeches, one-on-one interviews with Stephanopoulos and 2 or 3 others. They thought he could work his way out of it. But every single interview, huge flaws. Stephanopoulos would say later, gutlessly, and say it was sad interviewing him. Now they say these bad books are coming out. So let's put him forward. 2 appearances, the BBC and The View. Did it help?
It didn't help, and I think Democrats are really hoping that Joe stays home. But he's not going to, because I still don't think that Joe fully recognizes his own decline.
But does Jill?
She absolutely does. Clay Travis and I were talking about this a lot, and we've both been discussing it. But if this is what his advisors were seeing and the people in his inner circle, what was Jill seeing? That's evil. That's
Absolutely.
Evil that you allowed that to happen to your husband.
My hunch, Hunter and Jill were running the country. I really believe.
That's a horrifying thought.
When you find out the cabinet was locked out and the secretaries were locked, that's what they're saying, unnamed. But you say that they couldn't get access to him. Who else has access to him?
I think they kept it a real tight-knit circle, but we could see it. This is what's annoying me this week the most, is that these media members now are saying, well, we were lied to. Well, then how come all of us could detect it? You guys are supposed to be journalists and you couldn't see that there was decline there unless the White House told you there was decline? Like, where was your natural intellectual curiosity or just your ability to see and hear?
How about this? Cut 35.
Start your tape right now, because I'm about to tell you the truth. And F you if you can't handle the truth. This version of Biden, intellectually, analytically, is the best Biden ever. Not a close second. And I've known him for years. The Brzezinskis have known him for 50 years. If it weren't the truth, I wouldn't say it.
What do you say to that? F you if you don't believe it. F, really? Oh, thank you.
How do these people still have jobs?
I don't know. Why would you listen to whatever he says after that?
Well, it was a big lie to the American people, and the American people are quite sick of the lies. Now we're learning more and more about COVID. Okay, we were lied to a lot there. We were lied to about Joe, and all these members of the media now coming out saying, oh, well, we're going to get to the bottom of it now, and maybe we should have looked into this a little bit more. It's shocking that they still have time on the airwaves, Brian.
What about this? Jake Sullivan, in his book, he wasn't recognized. The National Security Advisor wasn't recognized. Listen to his response here. Cut 30.
You never witnessed this thing that all these aides are talking about to these journalists, that sometimes he would just sort of fade away. You never witnessed that.
I could just tell you my own personal experience. I cannot speak on behalf of aides, unnamed people, and I can't speak on behalf of what folks reacted to when they saw him operating in public. All I can do is tell you my experience with him, and that's what I've done.
Cut 29.
There's actually an excerpt in the book where it says he forgot your name in December 2022. He called you Steve a couple of times. Did that happen?
I do not recall that ever happening, and I will tell you, Joe Biden knows my name. He knows my name.
Wait a second. Steve who? I'm like, who do you think he was?
But the rationalizations, and this is still going on for those who are not being completely forthright. Their biggest defense of him was he stood up today, and Jill on The View, he put in a full day, guys, and then even sometimes at night he was doing a little more.
Wow.
And that's their biggest thing is, well, he usually remembered my name, and every time I saw him, he was breathing. And they want us to applaud that he was able to function. Right.
So here's the thing. The Russia investigation, we know that was a big hoax for 2.5 years. And then when the Mueller report comes out, they change gears. And then we know about COVID when it came out. Now we find out what was going on behind the scenes. Perhaps the HHS is more complicit than anybody else. But then we find out about the laptop. Remember in 2020, if you brought up the laptop, in fact, we have that. Chuck Todd talking about people and the laptop. But if you brought up the laptop, you're a conspiracy theorist. And then 6 months later, the New York Times goes, the laptop is real. We knew it was real. And then they expect us to say, now they want us to believe that Joe Biden was fine. Now we know he wasn't fine. So where is your credibility? Listen to Chuck Todd when asked about the laptop, remember?
Instead of Roger Stone and WikiLeaks, it's Rudy Giuliani and some computer guy in Delaware. So this didn't work. So he'll try another planted story or another, Russian, use some other, discredited Russian propaganda. And for those of you spreading misinformation, shame on you. Shame on you. I don't know how some of you sleep at night who are doing this for a living on television.
Listen how angry he is. He really thought that the laptop wasn't real. We knew it was real. What we have to do is say, Mr. President, is this your laptop? Because I'm about to go on the air, or Mr. Vice President at the time, I'm about to go on the air. Is it yours? Could it be yours? Is some of these emails real? But no one made any of those efforts, including the 52 intel agents that swore it was Russian disinformation.
A lot of discussion right now about why Fox News and other, right-wing alternative media podcasting, why are they doing so well right now? Well, that's exactly their answer. The American people have been lied to over and over and over and over again. They would rather listen to a comedian on a podcast or Joe Rogan, or they would rather certainly watch Fox News than be lied to by all these people who shamed them for simply asking questions. You can't ask about Joe. You can't ask about COVID. You can't ask about vaccines. You can't ask about the laptop. You can't ask about the lab leak theory. They told us all these things were off limits. They lied to us. And now they wonder why people don't want to watch them anymore. Well, I have a few hundred reasons why.
So is there any doubt in your mind that the next person to emerge has to be separate from anyone we've been dealing with? I mean, Bernie, obviously too old. AOC is too sullied. All these other people have been in and around Joe Biden. The next person to emerge on the left has to come out, I think, of the wilderness. Right? I mean, it's got to be some mayor we don't know or some a lieutenant governor that hasn't established themselves yet.
Nobody that was around Joe Biden, and that includes Pete Buttigieg, nobody that was around Biden that experienced that has any credibility or any shot. None of them. That includes Gavin, Whitmer, all of them. They're all out. It's got to be somebody that's complete unknown. They're waiting in the wings. They're going to wait a couple of years. They don't want to be associated with the Democrat Party right now. There will be some kind of a movement, and that person will have to be very honest and say, yes, Joe Biden was failing. But the Democrat Party is probably going to snuff that person out too.
You know what's interesting is I almost think the analogy is Iraq. Because do you remember that people were so upset about Iraq and whether they're saying that we should not have voted the 70 senators that voted for Iraq? So Hillary Clinton was vulnerable because this young senator, who's been there for 2 years, came out against Iraq. Even though we never found that tape, we never found his state Senate stand, he kept saying, I was never for the Iraq war. You have to find somebody on the left that said, I never believed the Russia thing. I always believed the laptop was real, and I never thought Joe Biden should have been president. I don't know if anybody can find that person.
Or I don't believe that criminal illegal aliens should be out and about walking amongst us. That would be another great one. But then you're essentially a Republican at that point.
I know. At some point. I mean, I have to make sure the murderers and rapists are being treated well in prison. That's how I want to, if I'm the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, that's why I want to go to prison. I'm standing up for illegals.
Yeah. So you're essentially a Republican. So it's going to be various degrees of Republican conservatives running in 2028.
So I have this thing on my sheet that says she has to be out by 11:45. And you know what time it is?
Is it 11:45?
It's sad.
Well, they're calling for me down there. I got to get mic'd up.
Outnumbered.
Got to get on the couch.
All right. Costume change or no?
No. This is all you're getting. This is the olive I was requested to wear today.
Right. Oh, you hit your color wheel?
Yes.
Okay. I did not get the olive request. I don't think I could have. I don't think I own olive, but in the future I will, just in case. Tomi Lahren, thanks so much.